Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in the first place in the AL East, Toronto Blue Jays.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Channel on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and redeem code LOCKEDON MLB, Locked On MLB for $20 off your first purchase. As always, I'm Brayden Iwasco. He's Carter. First, you can find us on Twitter, Brayden5Iwasco. Carter first too as well on our main Twitter account at Locked On Jays. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok, both at Locked On Blue Jays. And if you're new here to YouTube, hit that subscribe button. It's free. You guys killed it yesterday with hitting the subscribe button. But if we're getting more Blue Jays fans and new Blue Jays fans to this podcast, hit that subscribe button. It's free. It's easy. You get your podcast, your shorts, your live streams, your videos. We do have a live stream planned coming up, the 999 challenge. Me and Carter have been talking about it for a while. We will let you guys know about that date as we get closer to. And if you're listening anywhere else, we appreciate that too. Oh my God, what an absolute game. A roller coaster of emotions, but it all culminates to the Toronto Blue Jays being tied for first place in the AL East, obviously with the Yankees. And today's game, later today, will be for all the chips, for all the marbles. Blue Jays, Yankees, game 4, baby. Oh my God, Carter. I don't know in a 3-game series where I've ever felt more like a playoff series. It felt like everything was thrown at the wall. Both teams were battling, but the Toronto Blue Jays, I want to start the conversation here because it's something that I've been talking about for a while this season, is the heart and the grit of this ball club, right? You see the Yankees come back, fight and tie the game all the way back from 8-0, and this team doesn't shy away. Instead, they put the hard hats on and they get up to the plate and they battle and they do damage and they do what they have to do. And don't get me wrong, a little bit of a gift from Devin Williams. But other than that, you got to love the compete level and the compete aspect to their game. And David Schneider in the postgame talked about sort of that fact. And John Schneider talked about it as well. Just the fact that when George Springer is out there doing everything like he's doing it, it shows a level of commitment to this ball club that John Schneider said rubs off on the rest of the guys. And I think that is a perfect way to put it. You see Vlad hustling out ground balls. You see, guys making high effort plays, trying to get, just trying to win games. And I absolutely love it. Right now, there might have never been a better time in the last few years to be a Blue Jays fan than right now.
Yeah, what a game. What a start to a series. After that first inning, I didn't have it on my bingo card to be an 11-9 game necessarily, but you win 3 in a row against the New York Yankees. Like you said, you are now tied for the lead in the AL East. Just definitely a very good spot to be. And this offense is just unbelievable. It's unstoppable right now. He's get 5 runs, 12 runs, and 11 runs. Like, that's 28 runs over a 3-game stretch. And you're not going against bums. You're not going against human pitching machine Will Warren. A little bit disrespectful, but I mean, that first inning, absolutely horrific from Will Warren. You're going against Carlos Rodon. You're going against Max Fried, 2 of the best left-handed pitchers in all of baseball. Unbelievable stuff from this offense. Unbelievable stuff from this team. There has been some stuff that you can kind of pick and choose at here. But honestly, I mean, you go 3-0 against one of the best teams in the AL. And it's a very good spot to be in as a Toronto Blue Jays fan. You brought up the resilience that they showed again in this game as well. Very easy for this team. Once Aaron Judge does hit that home run, makes it an 8-8 ball game, you blow an 8-0 lead. Very easy for that momentum and just all life to be sucked out of the Rogers Center. Very easy to roll over in that baseball game. But the motto of this entire season has been the Toronto Blue Jays get punched in the mouth and they punch right back. You just look at the scorecard again here and you look at kind of how the innings went throughout this baseball game. Is that Aaron Judge hits that home run, and what do the Toronto Blue Jays do? They get a 2-spot of their own. Again, kind of credit to Devin Williams, but Addison Barger comes up with a massive at-bat once again. Hits a single to right field or left field. Maybe the second run doesn't score, but Jeff Hoffman looks pretty good in his outing as well. There's so many different things to talk about in this baseball game, but I guess for me, let's start in that first inning. just an absolute hit parade. I mean, you bat around in the first inning against Will Warren, and Will Warren hasn't necessarily been a slouch. I know I kind of gave him a little bit of disrespect off the top, but he has been a massive part of this Yankees rotation, kind of dealing similar stuff as the Toronto Blue Jays with some injuries. Just the Toronto Blue Jays more unpredictability than the New York Yankees. Kind of the same idea, having to fill some rotation spots. Luckily, they have had Rodon and Max Fried at the top of that roster. Clark Schmidt was out for a while. They have Luis Heel still on the IL. Garrett Cole, obviously, early on the season. They had to get some innings from a guy. They were kind of in that same spot as they needed somebody. We got Eric Lauer. They had Will Warren come in and be very effective for that ball club. But today, just all over the middle of the plate. Don't want to take anything away from the Blue Jays hitters, but he caught the middle of the plate quite a bit. And you saw that Aston Barger home run. That ball was literally a changeup right down the middle. Again, you got to hit mistakes, and Aston Barger, one of the best players on the Toronto Blue Jays at hitting those mistakes, but just going through the at-bats. Andres Gimenez kind of gave him a little bit of crap yesterday on the episode before yesterday's. It would have been the Wednesday episode. And then he goes 3 for 4, kind of just scrappy at bats. That's how Andres Gimenez is going to get on base. He's not going to hammer the baseball into the gap. He's not going to be hammering high exit velocities very often, but he's got to have scrappy at bats. He's got to be a contact hitter. He can use that speed to his advantage. What I was talking about yesterday is that right now he's on a $10.5 million contract. That's not bad value for a player like Andres Gimenez. When it gets to $23 million, it's not going to be great, but nobody on this team is expecting Andres Gimenez to carry the workload for this Blue Jays ball club. If he can just be a serviceable, not necessarily a leadoff hitter, I don't think that's a long-term solution for this ball club. But with Bichette out, with the kind of the stretch that Andres Gimenez has been on, don't mind having him, get a little bit higher up in this lineup. I don't love one any single time. I know he had a good day, but credit to Andres Gimenez just being a pretty solid leadoff hitter, at least in this one game the Toronto Blue Jays played. George Springer being scrappy, Vladdy walking. I want to talk about Alejandro Kirk's swing. That looked like me in slow pitch when things aren't going well. Like maybe I flew out the first 3 at-bats, and I'm just kind of like, hammering a pitch down the right field line. Kind of a little bit of an excuse me swing, but Alejandro Kirk, unbelievable bat-to-ball skill, and then hammering that ball down the line. Aston Barger home runs, David Schneider home runs. What a first inning it was to watch, and definitely had me on cloud 9 at the start of that baseball game.
Yeah, Carter, and you know what? We're going to have some stuff to talk about in regards to John Schneider, specifically with bullpen usage, what to do in certain situations, obviously when Aaron Judge came up later in the game. But I got to give him credit where credit is due, and that is that he went back and looked at how Davis Schneider and Addison Barger played against Will Warren in the minor leagues. Not many managers will go, hey, I'm going to go take a look at how these guys played in the minors against this one specific pitcher, because they did play him a lot, and they both had found success against Will Warren in the minors. John Schneider decides to go with his gut on this one and throw Davis Schneider back in the lineup, and it couldn't have worked out better. A 2 home run game, first of his career for Davis Schneider. Shout out him. He's my boy. I'm here for the long haul with Davis Schneider. I will never give up. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of this guy. I have 2 jerseys of him. When he came into the league, that's when me and Carter were starting to take this podcast and start doing podcasts. And so for me, David Schneider will always be a special part of me, ingrained in this, in Toronto Blue Jays land, because this is where the podcast sort of came from, was the year that Davis Schneider had his momentous year. So it was great to see, really love to see that. And just Addison Barger continue to succeed. I think when Addison Barger was first doing really well, I think there were some people that were acting like how I was a bit acting to Eric Lauer, where, we got to wait for the other shoe to drop. We don't know how this is going to continue. And Addison Barger, I think, has shut everyone up, because Addison Barger has been just unbelievable, just outstanding. So hat tips to both of those guys specifically in this ball game.
Yeah, it's very nice when you're getting the Buffalo boys from a few seasons ago pulling up to this team. You kind of throw Ernie Clement into that mix as well, being integral pieces to the Toronto Blue Jays' success up to this point. I got a couple stats here from Sportsnet stats just on this Toronto Blue Jays game. Obviously, it was a 7-run first inning. Let's get more of those, especially against the New York Yankees. I know the game it still worked out, but you go score 7 runs in 1 inning, especially the first inning against the Yankees. I don't think at that point, like throughout the game, I felt a little bit worse. But at that point right there, I think that might have been the best I felt all season, because I love beating up on the Yankees. But the Blue Jays score 7 runs in that first inning at home for the first time since September 5th in 2018 against the Tampa Bay Rays. And just a little stat here to show what caliber of baseball the Toronto Blue Jays have been playing recently. The Yankees not playing their best caliber of baseball, but still you got to take advantage when other teams are scuffling. But on May 28th, the Toronto Blue Jays trailed the Yankees by 8 games in the AL East. Well, today here we are at July 3rd, when the day that this podcast is released, and the Blue Jays are now tied with the New York Yankees for the AL East. Still is very early on in the year, obviously, but these games specifically do matter a lot. You saw earlier on in the season, the Blue Jays lose the first game of the series against the Yankees. You know how important these AL East games are, and to just start with a 3-0 series start against this New York Yankees team, again, when you played Max Fried, you played Carlos Rodon, Will Wagner was the one I said you had to take advantage of. They did a little bit of that and more against Will Warren. So credit to this Toronto Blue Jays offense, and credit to the bullpen, who has been under a lot of fire just because they have been playing so often. Like in the last 4 starts, the Toronto Blue Jays starters giving you 4 1/3, 5 innings, 4 1/3. Not exactly what you want from the starters, but credit to the bullpen. Even though there was a few blow-ups in this game, just credit to the team for showing resiliency once again. This team is just so good at overcoming adversity, whether it's in a baseball game, whether it's the peaks and valleys of a season. Just it's really just fun to watch at this point.
It really is. It really is. And, we saw the comments and everything from you guys. I just wanted to throw this out there before we take a break and talk, obviously about the bullpen in totality, the decisions made by John Schneider in regards to Aaron Judge, and a whole bunch more. Obviously, we do have a new player retiring, an ex-Toronto Blue Jays, so we'll talk about him as well before we talk about Game 4. But I did want to say this before we left this first segment. Some of the amazing comments that we got from you guys, some new baseball fans, some new Toronto Blue Jays fans, found our podcast and, have been riding with us since either, early in the off season to, they picked our podcast up through the year. And we do really appreciate that, especially those stories of how you guys found the podcast and stuff. So we do appreciate all the comments. But, when it is new baseball fans coming in and we get to be, the place you come to for your favorite team, we appreciate that more than you guys could ever know, because, that was exactly, what we did and that found the love of the game. And it was just happened to be talking to our buddies. So, we want you guys to be a part of all of this with us and moving forward. So we always appreciate everything that you guys do in the comment section and liking all the posts and following us on everything. It means a ton. We'll be right back with a ton more on today's game, plus the retiree that from the Toronto Blue Jays, and looking ahead to Game 4 when we return. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. You guys know how much I love Game Time. It's my only ticketing site that I use because it is literally the best. Whether it's the cheapest seats, whether it is the view from the seat, which I absolutely love, or the last minute deals, it's all fantastic. We've all been there, logging on early, waiting for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for the show you've been dying to see. Live music should be making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in. We had the Winnipeg Jets whiteout in Winnipeg, and a bunch of people tried to get tickets. We were on Ticketmaster, and it just went horribly. And you know what? Whether it's to a playoff game or just a game throughout the season, you want cheap tickets, you want easily accessible tickets. Game Time is the place to do that. Game Time makes getting concert tickets, ball games, whatever it is, easier than ever. Prices automatically drop as it gets closer to showtime. You can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. Take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets or sporting event tickets and shop tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Carter, my man, continuing on. Before we get into the Aaron Judge, John Schneider decision of it all, there's a couple more guys I want to talk about, specifically, I guess, the bullpen usage as well. But let's continue on with the offense. Just what George Springer has been able to do. I want to break down sort of the play that happened in the 9th inning and what he was able to generate for this team, right? So the Blue Jays, with, I believe, 1 out at the time, George Springer gets on base. He steals second base.
Yeah, the 8th inning, but yeah, keep going.
Yeah, 8th inning. Sorry. Well, yeah, anyway, the 8th inning. George Springer steals second base on a great steal. I honestly didn't even expect it. It was so quick. He was just at second, and I was like, okay, nice. That then tempts the Yankees to walk Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Intentionally. They do that. Then that leads to who flew out? Alejandro Kirk fly out.
Yeah, and they both advanced.
And then George Springer gets a break on a pass ball and gets home. And the grittiness of, they talk about how George Springer isn't just a DH anymore, how he's their offensive player. They don't write down DH, they write down OP. And this perfectly encapsulates whatever that is, the offensive player, because George Springer isn't just there to hit the baseball and do whatever. He is a knowledgeable base runner. He knows the game. And for him to be able to not only steal that bag and advance on the pitch and then score, that won you the ball game. And I know that little things in ball games like that get lost on a lot of fans, right? They don't see the integral part of base running. But George Springer isn't just doing everything offensively, whether it's on the bases. He's been pretty good defensively as well when he has been in there. So George Springer has he's in my good graces right now because we dogged him a lot last year and in the offseason. And honestly, for good reason. The past 2 seasons, it was a steady decline. And we didn't expect George Springer. I don't think anybody in their right mind expected George Springer to do this. Was he capable? Yes. I think we all know that George Springer is a fantastic ball player throughout his entire career. But as a player gets older, you tend to see a little bit of a decline. And we were definitely seeing that with George Springer. So the resurgence of him, I want to bring up a fact that some of you guys brought up in the comment section on the other video. And that was David Popkins and what he's been able to do with all of these players. How much does a hitting coach matter? We asked each other at the start of this season. And I think we both said maybe a little, but not much because these guys all have their guys. But it seems like a lot of these players have taken to David Popkins and have been able to go to him with issues and with problems. And he's been able to notice things in a lot of these guys. So I think absolutely you have to give all the hat tips in the world to David Popkins and what he's been able to change slightly within all of these players' swings to make them more successful. Because how many guys on this team are having way more successful years than they have in the last 2 seasons, Carter?
Well, I think there's just a mentality change that David Popkins has brought into this team, especially regarding George Springer. I talked about this on episodes prior, is that he's sacrificing some of his whip to just swing hard. It's kind of like a go big or go home approach. He is going to strike out a lot more. When he hits the ball, he's going to hit it a lot harder. I'm not sure if that was a David Popkins thing. That could have been his own guy. It could just be George Springer. Maybe some witchcraft happened there and they cast some spells and made George Springer return to his MVP form, because it has been unbelievable to watch. And one of those things that not a lot of people would have predicted. Like, even we thought he'd be better than he was in 2024. I mean, how could you be that much worse in 2024? That was a little bit of the narrative. So it wasn't as much like George Springer was going to find himself again. It's just, it was so bad in 2024. He's got to just have some positive regression, but he's kind of kicked the door wide open, spat in our faces a little bit with that take there. And a lot of other Toronto Blue Jays fans, because 2024 was absolutely horrendous, but he has really figured it out here in 2025. So yeah, shout out to George Springer. Shout out to David Popkins. How much does a hitting coach matter? It definitely matters to some degree, probably more than I said initially. I don't think it matters for like smoothing mechanics. I don't think it matters for just a lot of like the physical ability. I think it does matter a lot though for approach into the game. What like the scouting report is on different pitchers. What like should they swing at specific pitches? What do these pitchers throw in specific scenarios when 1 strike counts, 2 strike counts, and favorable counts when they're behind it? Like there's so many different things that go into an at-bat. I think David Popkins has done a very good job at kind of unlocking a lot of these Toronto Blue Jays hitters and just allowing them to be more aggressive at the plate. You saw it with Miles Straw as well. One of the biggest notions for him is he's got to have the mentality that he wants to do damage at the plate. Kind of seemed like he had a conservative mentality at the plate. Miles Straw, not a prolific power hitter, but you want to go up to an at-bat wanting to do damage and believing that you can do damage. So I think David Popkins has to get a lot of the credit for that. You brought up something just about the base running on this Toronto Blue Jays team. Even when Will Wagner had that completely sawed off, don't know how he got this ball into the left field, but sawed off double down the line. Andres Gimenez puts the ball in play, hits Will Warren's glove. You see Will Wagner hustling around third base. He scores on that play, and Andres Gimenez goes from first base to second base. So it's just little things like that. You kind of talked about this offensive player notion. It's that it's not just hitting. It's not just the swings at the plate. It's just taking that extra base on the base paths, making smart decisions, tagging up on fly balls. If you see maybe a little bobble, something like that, it's taking advantage of the smaller things, because it could be that 90 feet can be the difference between a won and lost ball game. And the Toronto Blue Jays, along with David Popkins, along with John Schneider, along with everyone who is involved in this offense, we just seen a massive resurgence. It's just a lot of people deserve a lot of credit for what a lot of the Toronto Blue Jays hitters are doing this year.
Yeah, Carter, you know what? You brought up something that I really want to talk about. It's the mentality, right? It's the mentality at the plate and confidence. confidence is key when it comes to baseball. I said it so many times this year that if you're a baseball player, you should go out onto the diamond every single day and think of yourself, and this is going to sound dumb, but as the best player in baseball. You should go out there and believe that you are better than the pitcher standing in front of you. And if you can't do that, you're not going to have success. And I think that is the biggest change right now for one guy in particular, and that's Davis Schneider. Davis Schneider has found the confidence again. And I think last year we saw he did not have a lot of it. And we said, send him back down to the minors. Send him back down to the minors. Let him gain that confidence back. Well, what happens when Davis Schneider has confidence? This is what happens when Davis Schneider has confidence. So I love to see it. And we talked about Davis Schneider's role with this team. It's not going to be an everyday player. It's going to be coming off the bench. But if you have a guy like Davis Schneider coming off the bench, you are more than thrilled because he has the pop. He has a little bit of the clutch gene, which we've seen in certain scenarios. This is a perfect bench bat guy. You don't waste some of your young talent sitting on the bench. You get to use Davis Schneider as he maybe should be meant to be used. But in saying all of that, Carter, I do want to talk about the bullpen. I do want to talk about the decision with Aaron Judge. So I think let's talk about the bullpen. You did a little bit of looking to how, used this bullpen is. And the need to go, because I sort of said, it was a little bit weird that they didn't go Yimi Garcia earlier and then roll into Yariel Rodriguez and then into Hoffman. You said to me that, well, you probably wanted the length out of Yariel. And I said, okay, you're right. That's totally fair. I don't love that they had to go Yimi Garcia in such a high leverage situation for his first outing, but you did some looking and it seemed like this was the only option, right?
Yeah, they were going to have to use Yimi Garcia at some point in this game. Like I said, in the second segment, over the last 4 games, you've gotten 4 1/3 from Eric Lauer, you've gotten 5 from Gausman, 5 from Scherzer, and then you get 4 1/3 from Jose Berrios. That means in every single baseball game, you have to eat at least 4 innings with your bullpen. So just assuming that it's relatively like this, that 1 bullpen arm equals 1 inning, you're probably going to have to use 4 bullpen arms in every single game. And the stretch the Toronto Blue Jays are on right now is a little bit horrendous, just like not as much of the teams that they're playing, but 16 games in 16 days. Skyler brought it up on the podcast where I missed on Canada Day. It's a tough stretch in terms of just there's a lot of baseball to be played right now. They are on the second kind of half of that stretch, but it is tough when you're not getting that length from your starting pitching, and you do have to rely on these bullpen arms. Because like I said, you've pretty much been throwing at least 4 bullpen arms every single time, and 2 of them have been Mason Flaherty and Chad Green, who not necessarily have the most confidence in. That's why Mason Flaherty was optioned back to AAA. I think that was a little bit of a long time coming. You saw it kind of drop off for Mason Flaherty. You saw the confidence dip off. You saw hitters start to kind of figure out what he was trying to do to them, especially early on. So a little bit unfortunate for Flaherty, but back to the Yimi Garcia. Not exactly where you want to throw him in his first game back. Hasn't necessarily pitched for about a month. And you throw him against the top of the New York Yankees lineup in a 2-run ball game in the 8th inning. I know the bullpen situation was you didn't have a ton of guys available in this game, but maybe you try to rework it where you throw Yariel in the 8th inning, Yimi Garcia in the 6th. I don't know if it really matters that much because, again, Yimi Garcia is back in his first appearance. How confident is he coming off of, again, very good outings in AAA and in his rehab starts, but how much does that transfer over when you know you're going against high school kids, you're going against not MLB talent, obviously. But the main thing I wanted to kind of talk about is not as much Yimi Garcia's performance. It's pitching to Aaron Judge in that 8th inning. There's a runner on first base, Aaron Judge up to the plate. I know if you do walk Aaron Judge, you're putting the tying run on base. But my mentality, especially against this New York Yankees team, and this is kind of their motto as a baseball team, if Aaron Judge is firing, if Aaron Judge is playing good baseball, the Yankees are probably going to be pretty successful. They're probably going to win a lot of games if you have Aaron Judge firing on all cylinders. So how do you kind of at least limit the damage there? You take Aaron Judge out of the game. You make Ben Rice beat you. You make Giancarlo Stanton beat you. You make Jazz Chisholm beat you. It's a lot easier for me, at least, to sleep at night knowing one of those guys beat me rather than throwing to Aaron Judge. And again, not the greatest pitch by Yimi Garcia, but seeing a backed up slider and him launching it in the left field seats. John Schneider has walked Aaron Judge more than any other manager in all of baseball. It was a weird scenario for me that in that instance right there, where Aaron Judge wants to win the back entire baseball game, he fails to intentionally walk him to pitch against somebody else. Just a little bit of a weird decision made by John Schneider there.
Yeah, and I have a take on this because I was thinking about it at the time of this at-bat. Should you just walk him? And I'm not going to lie. I was a little bit 50-50. I think if this is Yimi Garcia before he went down with the injury, and you see Yimi Garcia being very good, and you want to say, hey, we're going to test him. We're not going to let this guy beat us. We're going to have one of our best relievers go out there and try to get this done. I think I'd be okay with it. I think I could understand that. My problem here is this is Yimi Garcia's first game back, and you're making him pitch against the best hitter in baseball. That's a problem. If, like I said, I would have a lot less of an issue with this if this was pre-injury Yimi Garcia. But I do get it from John Schneider's point of view as well, in the sense that, hey, do we want to let this game go to Cody Bellinger to hit a 3-run shot on us? Or do we want to just test them? It's a tie game. Our offense has been cooking. Let them try to come back and figure this out. And I don't love it. I still think he should have been walked, specifically this scenario with Yimi, not it being his first game back. I think that should have happened. So that's my stance on it. But I do a little bit get the mentality of this as well. I think, yeah, like I said, if it was Yimi before the injury, I maybe still wouldn't be happy with it, the decision, but I think I could understand it a lot more.
Yeah, for me, he is one of the best hitters, if not the best hitter in all of baseball. I'm giving him the Los Angeles Angels treatment when they play the Yankees. Walk him every time. I don't care what the scenario is, unless it's like bases loaded, bottom of the 9th inning, obviously. But if there's runners on for Aaron Judge and you have the ability to pitch against somebody else and like I said, if you let somebody else be the one to beat you, ideally they don't beat you. But I'm sleeping way better at night knowing that the best player in all of baseball did not beat my baseball team. Make somebody else, do some of the heavy work and the heavy loading and try to drive in some runners for the New York Yankees. I know, tough scenario. That's why I'm not like the most upset that he threw Yimi in that scenario. Just more so how he approached that Aaron Judge at bat. Again, it's easy to see in hindsight, but every time you do throw Aaron Judge, especially an off-speed pitch in the zone, his spin and fastball is good as well. He's been unbelievable against pretty much every single pitch. But as soon as you start throwing pitches in the strike zone, that's how you have to get him out. I understand that. You try to make Aaron Judge chase, but you're just playing with a lot of fire in a late inning scenario. So didn't necessarily love that, especially when John Schneider has been known to walk Aaron Judge in the past. So I would like to ask him why he didn't do that in that scenario, but he has been prone to walking Aaron Judge and just very good caliber baseball players in these big scenarios and just letting some of the less proven guys beat them in a baseball game. But yeah, credit to a lot of guys on this baseball team. I mean, David Schneider, 500 in this series, hitting doubles, hitting singles, home runs, obviously as well. Andres Gimenez firing, Alejandro Kirk firing on all cylinders. And this kind of is a bigger picture topic, so I'm not going to go fully into this. But this year, just looking at, especially at this offense, a lot of things are going really well and above expectations for the Toronto Blue Jays. Like George Springer is on an insanity run right now, which might last the entire season. Alejandro Kirk having an all-star caliber season. You're getting production from guys like Addison Barger. I'm not going to completely dive in on David Schneider yet because it's been 3 games, but you're getting production from guys like David Schneider. You're getting production from guys at one point from John Nicolosi. Hit a home run against the St. Louis Cardinals to tie that baseball game. Andres Gimenez, again, not completely sold on him, but you're getting a lot of these role players that are exceeding expectations and playing very good baseball. So if you can get a big piece at this trade deadline, get Bichette back, get Daulton Varsho back, Anthony Santander, if you can be serviceable, if Vladdy goes on a little bit of a stretch, there is a lot of avenues that this baseball team can take to go on a pretty decent run in this AL, especially because of how weak it is. But there's still a lot to be decided for this Toronto Blue Jays team, and it all starts in the 4th game against this New York Yankees team.
Yeah, Carter, we're going to tee that up. We're also going to go into which player, ex-Toronto Blue Jay, has just retired. Also with that, teeing up the 4th game into that, and a whole lot more coming up right after this short break.
Today's episode is sponsored by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site that's made for the skilled trades, supplyhouse.com. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the most reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for the trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That is SH5 for 5% off your first order, and that is at supplyhouse.com.
Just to start things off, Carter, I did want to say that I was trying to think of the other thing I wanted to bring up in the third segment, and that is a congratulations to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Making the All-Star game. Yeah, big hat tips to him. I mean, obviously, he's the most well-known guy of the Toronto Blue Jays, and this is a little bit of a popularity contest when it comes
and we
to
might have to protest the league, unfortunately. Like, Cal Raleigh somehow beat Alejandro Kirk out. I don't even know why. He's not having that good of a year. Alejandro Kirk is our guy. Should have been the All-Star game, wasn't. So we might have to, send a strongly worded email to the MLB commissioner, because that's just a whole load of BS. We want Alejandro Kirk in the All-Star game. He will get there, but it's not as a starter.
Yeah, whatever, like 33 home runs. Not a big deal.
Yeah, that's not that good.
Anybody could do that before the All-Star break. No. Good for Cal Raleigh. He does deserve it. We are, it is an outstanding season that he is having. So big shout out to him. But Carter, also, Kevin Pillar has announced his retirement from baseball. And sad to see Superman, retire. But at the end of the day, I think it is. I think it's time. It was time that he hung him up, and it's nice that we can go back and relive a bunch of the memories of what he did fantastically for this Toronto Blue Jays team.
Yeah, Kevin Pillar walked, so Kevin Kiermaier, Daulton Varsho, Miles Straw could run for this Toronto Blue Jays team. But this Blue Jays ball club has had a very good history of having very good defensive center fielders, and it all started with Superman Kevin Pillar. Like, there's so many catches. I remember the backhand, like, Spider-Man move he did at the wall, just no regard for his body whatsoever, diving all over the place. A couple big home runs mixed in there as well. It's a very fun baseball player to watch. Like, that's where kind of I think maybe the defensive narrative started a little bit with Kevin Pillar. Ross Atkins and Mark Spiral saw Kevin Pillar just, diving all over the place, making catches that you didn't even think were possible. And like, hey, I want more of that, which I can't completely understand. But maybe went a little bit too far that way. But hey, now we're in a pretty good spot as a Toronto Blue Jays fan base. So that's the thing. You can't really complain too much with how things are going right now. There's a little bit of nitpicking you can do here and there. That's always going to be that nitpicking you can do. But just looking at the stretch this Toronto Blue Jays team has had, the caliber of baseball they're playing, one of the best teams over the last 30-ish games, which is something that has been a very good and very fun thing to watch for this baseball club ever since April, really. Like, you had that month of April where this team kind of started slow. Again, it's baseball. Things are going to happen. But May and June have been very fun months. If we can even get like half of that for the rest of the season, I think this is going to be a very enjoyable watch. And just one last thing, kind of just a broad thing as well. How much more fun is it going to be talking about other teams' players coming to the Toronto Blue Jays rather than just the skeleton crew that the Toronto Blue Jays were going to field out after last trade deadline, which seemed like every single player had the possibility of being sold. Like, Vladdy was being talked about in trade talks. Bichette was being talked about. I mean, Trevor, like, you can go down that line. Any player that had a 1-year contract, just, see you later. So just everyone's scalping players in the Toronto Blue Jays. It's going to be nice to at least think about and talk about doing that to other teams this year.
It is going to be fun. And I did want to throw this in there as well, Carter. The Tampa Bay Rays did win as well. So there are three teams in the AL East that are all tied up at 48 wins. The Rays are a game back because they do have 39 losses, where the Jays and Yankees only, half game back, because the Jays and Yankees have only 38 losses. So there you go. It is a tight race, but as of right now, the Toronto Blue Jays are tied for first place in the AL East. Carter, I guess going into game 4 at this point, I'm not going to say it. I'm not superstitious, but it's baseball and crazy things have happened. So you got to hope for a Toronto Blue Jays win here. Bassitt versus Clark Schmidt. This is, I don't know. I'm here for it. If there is as much drama and electrifying, fan base at the Rogers Center, I don't know. I don't know how this series could get any better, to be honest. It is that crazy.
Oh, and it's with the S word. That's how it gets better. Yeah. But it's been a great time. Like, we were good with the series split. We would be absolutely like laughing if they won 3 out of 4. And now we have a chance to really, with the Toronto Blue Jays, to kind of stomp on the Yankees' neck and a little bit here. Biggest series of the year up to this point in the grand scheme of things. Still a big series, but it isn't the end all be all. But it's definitely nice to take, even just a few games on your official opponent that you will be battling in the AL East for the rest of the season. Maybe a little bit of this 3-headed race. I think the Tampa Bay Rays, again, they're always easy to discount, but I do think that they will fall off. Not completely, like, they're not going to, I think they're going to make the playoffs, but I don't think that they will be in contention for the AL East. But a lot of things can happen in the next 70 or so games. Tampa Bay Rays have proved us wrong a time or two. And it's not going to be the Toronto Blue Jays that are going to be beating the Tampa Bay Rays and getting a bunch of games back like that. You're going to need other teams to do your kind of dirty work. For some reason, the Toronto Blue Jays Achilles heel is the Tampa Bay Rays. Is their kryptonite. They, for some reason, just can't really figure it out against the Rays. And that's why that AL East title might be pretty important, because right now it's looking like 3 teams in the AL East might make the playoffs, especially if you have to go, you have to play Tampa. I think they're playing in the Marlins Stadium, if I'm correct, for the playoffs. I don't think it's at Steinberger. And then if you have to go to the Yankee Stadium, like in a first round playoff scenario, not exactly what you want to see. So that's why this is going to be important down the stretch. And it's going to be important for Chris Bassitt to provide this team with a little bit of length out of the starting rotation. Like I said, you haven't gotten the best outings from your starters. The bullpen has been fairly taxed. So I think Chris Bassitt is going to be expected to throw 6 innings. Hopefully things can go well. If you get 7, even better. But I'm optimistic. How can you not be optimistic after this stretch? The offense could continue doing things like they have been. Again, doesn't matter who's on the other side of them, who's on that pitching mound. This Toronto Blue Jays team is just having quality at bats up and down the lineup. So that's just a couple guys doing it. It's been the kind of the thought process of the story from the entire season. It's not just one guy doing it. It's 1 through 9. It's the entire order. And it's even the bench guys as well, like David Schneider doing it in limited playing time. Whoever you really throw in that scenario, whether it's Miles Straw, Tyler Heineman went on the greatest run of all time at the start of the season, cooling off a little bit, obviously, here. But you're getting production from everyone, and that's why it's just been a whole different feeling than a lot of traditional Toronto Blue Jays teams, especially in recent history.
Carter, my last question for you here, I know we're already going long here on the pod, as we always do, it is wild to see how many Blue Jays fans have come back to the team this series specifically. I know it was slowly leaking in, but it seemed to be an explosion of, because I'm not one to judge. There are a lot of people that are very casual baseball fans that when the team starts doing good, when they go on runs, they start to tune in around the halfway mark of the season. So, tune in. This is the time. So no judgment whatsoever. We're happy to have everybody coming back, surrounding this team with the positivity that the fan base is bringing right now. So absolutely fired up. But have you noticed that a little bit more too, that there seem to be more fans trickling in?
Yeah, maybe a little bit of bandwagon fans, but when you're playing against the New York Yankees, everyone knows, even if you're a casual fan, you're a diehard fan, that this is a big series and the biggest series up to this point. I think everyone just loves to see a beatdown of the New York Yankees. I'm definitely one of them that is on that side of the fence. But it's honestly for me, like as long as whether you're watching this team again every day, whether you're watching this team once a week, I don't really care where you're at in this fan base. I think it's just you got to stay with this team within the low times as well. It's tough to watch 162 baseball games in a year. Like we obviously know that firsthand. So not necessarily expected to watch every single baseball game, but we do appreciate the people that are sticking with us, whether you are watching casually or watching every single day like we are. It's a grind, and it's definitely it's a lot easier of a grind. It's a lot more fun to continue to do the grind when the Toronto Blue Jays are playing good baseball and, scoring just a million runs in every single baseball game. George Springer hitting 7 RBIs. All of a sudden, Tyler Heineman might hit 4 grand slams in a baseball game. It doesn't matter who it is. It seems like they can spin a wheel and they're going to get production from somebody on this offense. Just how well is that starting rotation going to hold up? And it has gotten better, but there are still some question marks. I think there will kind of continue to be question marks, at least until the trade deadline, where maybe there will be some reinforcements on the way, especially with like Alek Manoah coming back, hopefully around that time as well, probably a little bit down the road. But there are some options that the Toronto Blue Jays will have, and it will be interesting to see how this team does differ in their roster construction in the next month or so. See what prospects, if any, if maybe the entire prospect system that they will give up at this trade deadline, because pretty obvious, I think, at this point, Toronto Blue Jays will be buyers at the trade deadline. Man, does that feel good to say that. But Brayden, you got anything else to add before we do kick off for this episode?
I don't. Again, like we said, we appreciate all the comments that you guys are leaving. You guys have been absolutely fantastic. All of you who are watching this, we love to see what you guys are thinking. I mean, that's what sort of kicked us up into thinking about, the hitting coaches and how important they are again. So the comments you guys leave directly impact this show. So we do really appreciate everybody's input. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And we'll talk to you guys again tomorrow after hopefully a Blue Jays